2025, in the darkness between Moscow and Beijing, two superpowers secretly held a call and signed a $287 million death agreement, disguised under the veil of cooperation. But this data was leaked by a top-secret AI surveillance system from Kyiv. It revealed nuclear microchips, mobile uranium reactors, and a hypersonic missile launch system, if completed, could create a doomsday missile capable of wiping out a NATO city of 3 million people in just 6.4 seconds. A project named Thunderstep, in which the People's Liberation Army, PLA, deployed 5 Xi'an Y-20 military transport aircraft, each carrying 66 tons of cargo to Chkalovsky Air Base, near Moscow. Immediately, Operation Iron Mist was activated. 12 MiG-29 fighter jets took off from Kharkiv Air Base, supported by 28 FPV attack drones, aimed at weakening Russia's air defense network. Could Ukraine's joint force stop this dangerous project, or would Russia's billion-dollar defense system turn the plan to ashes? Let's uncover the truth. On the night of November 7, 2025, at exactly 10:45 p.m. Beijing time, a secret call was placed between China's Ministry of Defense and senior Russian military officials. The call lasted just 17 minutes, but its content was neither commerce nor diplomacy. It was a transaction for a next-generation weapon of mass destruction. The two sides agreed to a deal worth more than $287 million, including tightly controlled rare military components, 34,000 micronuclear chips, 280 quantum positioning sensors, 8 mobile uranium reactors, and 5 advanced propulsion systems designed for hypersonic launch platforms. When combined, these parts could be assembled into a preemptive strike weapon capable of reducing a NATO city of 3 million people to ash in 6.4 seconds. A project codenamed Thunderstep was due to be deployed the next day. But the data was leaked, intercepted by a top-secret AI monitoring system deep inside Kyiv's electronic warfare division, and captured within 30 seconds. A single .wav file became the most classified piece of data Ukraine possessed. The call revealed blueprints, quantities, and a delivery route audacious enough to bypass global scrutiny. Analysts listened in stunned silence as the People's Liberation Army, PLA, agreed to mobilize 5 Xi'an Y-20 military transport aircraft, each with a payload capacity of over 66 tons, each carrying cargo valued at $57.4 million, escorted by 12 armed PLA technicians per aircraft. Total personnel, 60. Total risk, incalculable. This time, they would move it by air. Their destination, Chkalovsky Air Base, Moskva Oblast, roughly 31 kilometers, 19 miles, northeast of central Moscow. A site engineered for military secrecy, protected by 3 concentric S-400 defense rings and entirely beyond civilian surveillance. It serves as Russia's strategic air logistics hub, storing classified military equipment and supporting special flights for the Ministry of Defense. While the world slept, two superpowers quietly conspired to create a catastrophic breakthrough, and Ukraine, with its digital ears wide open, caught them in the act. The clock is ticking. The 5 transport planes have now departed, expected to arrive in Moscow at 10:30 a.m. Kyiv time the following day. 10:32 a.m. Kyiv time, November 8, 2025. The Ukrainian operations room was silent. On the central screen, a live satellite feed showed 5 Xi'an Y-20 transport aircraft, each cruising at 31,000 feet, approximately 9,460 meters, moving along an air corridor that kept them less than 14 miles, approximately 22 kilometers, from NATO radar gaps. The 5 transports had arrived and landed at Chkalovsky Air Base exactly as predicted. Once on the ground, military crews and offloading personnel waited to unload 330 tons of components. The entire landing sequence was recorded. President Volodymyr Zelensky convened the senior military command and issued a single directive: intercept, neutralize, leave no trace. The operation had a code name: Iron Fog. It had to be executed inside a narrow 27-minute window, the interval between the Chinese aircraft entering Russian airspace and the cargo being offloaded. Within seconds, orders flowed through encrypted military channels. 12 MiG-29 fighter jets would launch from Kharkiv Air Base, fully refueled and armed. Each jet carried 4 beyond visual range R-77 missiles, high-speed precision weapons capable of striking aircraft or grounded targets with 97% accuracy. 28 FPV strike drones would be deployed in the first wave, designed not to destroy, but to degrade Russia's air defense network. This mission was more than tactical. It was existential. If these weapons reached Russian assembly facilities, the next battlefield would not be Ukraine, but Warsaw, Berlin, even America. NATO's stretched defenses would be overwhelmed. Every jet, every drone, every second now mattered. Ukraine had 1 hour before Moscow's skies might erupt in fire or fall silent. Kyiv chose fire. Could Russia's $500 billion defense grid intercept an attack designed to blind it first? Or would this operation crack open a new corridor through its armor? 10:42 a.m. Moscow time. The skies over western Russia were silent. At Chkalovsky Air Base, ground crews were busy preparing for cargo unloading, unaware of the storm forming above them. They did not know that high overhead, 12 MiG-29s were tearing through the air, climbing into combat formation at 24,000 feet, while 28 FPV kamikaze drones glided low and silent, their carbon fiber frames skimming just 60 meters above the ground, nearly invisible to most Russian radar systems. They had already entered Russian airspace, hiding, waiting for the order. Inside Russia's Air Defense Command, confidence was high. The base was shielded by 4 active systems, 2 S-400 Triumph missile batteries, and 2 Buk M2 launch groups, with a combined value of over $2.4 billion in defensive hardware and munitions. Spread across the region, these systems were believed impenetrable, capable of intercepting any threat within a 65-kilometer radius. That confidence lasted exactly 32 seconds. The attack order was executed. At 10:43 a.m., the swarm of 28 low-flying FPV drones breached the radar horizon. Flying below 150 feet, hugging treetops and terrain, their movements resembled migrating birds. But their radar signatures told a different story. Threat. Inside the eastern radar tower at Chkalovsky, operators spotted the anomaly. Alarm sirens wailed. Red lights flashed across the consoles. Within 19 seconds, they declared a Level 4 breach. Launch authorization was granted 2 S-400 systems and 2 Buk M2 launchers, positioned along the northern and eastern defensive rings, received the order. Within 12 seconds, 15 surface-to-air missiles launched in rapid succession, each one streaking at Mach 3.2, hunting targets worth less than $3,000 apiece. One by one, drones were hit out of the chaotic formation. Telemetry data after the skirmish showed Russian interceptors destroyed roughly 20 drones. 8 slipped through the defensive net, weaving between hangars and fuel trucks, drawing fire and scrambling tracking systems before self-destructing within 70 meters of the runway. For a brief moment, commanders exhaled. The immediate threat seemed neutralized, but they had walked into a trap. What they could not see, what the radar could not detect, were the MiG-29s circling high above, using the drone swarm as cover. At Mach 1.6, they began their deadly dive. No warning, no second wave. This was the main assault. Altitude, 36,000 feet. Target, the runway and cargo zone. And in less than a minute, Russian airspace would be engulfed in fire. We've seen the trap, but the real strike hasn't even begun. Watch carefully, because in the next few minutes, everything you thought was secure will fall apart. 10:44 a.m. The moment had arrived. From 36,000 feet, approximately 11,900 meters, 12 MiG-29s nosed over in unison. Below, Russia's air defense network was still reconfiguring after the drone swarm. Controllers chased echoes, unable to distinguish real threats from debris and decoys. Seconds later, at Mach 1.6, the MiGs unleashed their full firepower. 48 R-77M air-to-surface missiles, each fitted with a 22-kilogram fragmentation warhead designed to rip through armored fuselages and pierce hardened bunkers. Targeting data, linked mid-flight via encrypted NATO satellite relays, locked onto the objectives. Runway 3, Cargo Transfer Zone Alpha, and the 5 Y-20 transport aircraft, now exposed their holds carrying 330 tons of classified weapon components, micro-uranium reactors, quantum detonators, hypersonic propulsion systems, and AI flight control chips. At 10:45 a.m., the first missile struck Y-20 Bravo directly. The fuselage erupted into a wall of flame, hurling titanium and uranium fragments across the tarmac. Seconds later, a second missile hit Y-20 Delta during its descent, producing a mid-air detonation that lit the skyline for 12 kilometers. The Emergency Command Center tried to reboot the S-400 tracking network, but radar screens remained white-noised by Ukrainian jammers emitting interference at 120 decibels, enough to overload analog frequencies within a 19-kilometer radius. For 97 seconds, Russia's billion-dollar defensive curtain was blind. By 10:47 a.m., the second wave struck. 6 missiles ripped through 700 meters of reinforced concrete runway, creating craters 12 meters wide and 4 meters deep. 4 more slammed into the eastern hangars, igniting the cargo control facility and the ammunition depot. Eyewitness reports later confirmed 5 PLA officers killed on site, 12 wounded, and 24 Russian personnel missing, buried beneath collapsing logistics warehouses. By 10:49 a.m., Chkalovsky Air Base, once Russia's most secure military logistics hub, had descended into chaos. 5 aircraft, 3 radar towers, 2 command shelters, and $420 million in infrastructure had been erased. A 42,000-liter fuel reservoir detonated shortly after, sending a smoke column 900 meters high, visible from central Moscow. But most shocking of all, not a single MiG-29 was hit. Every Ukrainian pilot returned safely, their flight paths masked by residual jamming from the earlier UAV decoys. Within 17 minutes, all 12 fighters had crossed back into friendly airspace. In 6 minutes and 41 seconds, Ukraine inflicted over $700 million in direct damage and obliterated a deal that could have shifted the global balance of power. This was not merely an airstrike, it was a message written in fire that no fortress, no alliance, and no secret lay beyond Ukraine's reach. 11:30 a.m. Moscow time. The flames over Chkalovsky still burned when silence fell. What had been one of Russia's most fortified air bases, protected by $2.4 billion USD in air defense systems, was now a cratered wasteland. Satellite images captured minutes later showed 5 destroyed Y-20 transports, their wreckage scattered across 1.2 square kilometers, still glowing red from temperatures exceeding 1,300 degrees Celsius. The black plume of smoke rose 3,000 feet, 900 meters, high and drifted toward Moscow's outskirts, visible even from Red Square. Within 23 minutes of the strike, Ukrainian MiG-29s had crossed back into secure airspace, not a single aircraft lost, not a single pilot injured. It was a textbook operation, calculated, surgical, and successful. For Russia, the loss was staggering. Over $120 million in aircraft and equipment destroyed. 17 confirmed casualties, including 5 PLA officers. An airbase once considered impenetrable now reduced to a scorched shell. For China, it was worse. A covert weapons program exposed, their most classified military shipment annihilated, and the deaths of elite officers on foreign soil with no official explanation. Yet, by 2 p.m. Moscow time, both nations remained silent. No press conference, no retaliation, no acknowledgement. But the world had already seen the footage. Satellite images leaked to Western media showed the burned-out airframes, the gaping craters, the broken Russian radar masts still smoldering. The silence wasn't strategy, it was shock. In Kyiv, President Volodymyr Zelensky met with senior generals. Their message was clear: we will not wait to be erased. We will strike first if our survival is at stake. This wasn't just a military victory, it was a psychological offensive. A warning to the world that the China-Russia weapons corridor had been breached by a smaller nation that refused to be cornered. NATO analysts now classify the strike as a preemptive disarmament operation, marking the first known successful interception of a next-gen weapon alliance in transit. The rules of modern warfare had changed. Again. And in Beijing and Moscow, behind locked doors and guarded offices, the unspoken question echoed. If Ukraine could do this alone, what happens when NATO joins in? And from that silence, the world understood. The war had entered a new phase, one not fought with numbers but with fear. By 12 a.m., the smoke over Chkalovsky Air Base was still visible from satellites orbiting 500 kilometers above Earth. What had once been a fortress of steel and secrecy was now a scar. A black crater spanning 1.2 square kilometers, glowing faintly in infrared scans. Fire crews battled the inferno for hours, but nothing could be saved. The 5 Xi'an Y-20 transports, the classified cargo, and over $700 million in military infrastructure were gone. Moscow went silent. Beijing too. There were no press conferences, no statements, not even denials. Within 48 hours, global intelligence agencies confirmed the impossible. Ukraine had executed a deep strike operation over 800 kilometers inside Russian airspace, bypassing 3 layers of S-400 defense systems and evading 27 radar arrays. Not a single aircraft was lost. Behind closed doors, the aftermath was catastrophic. Russia suspended all joint weapons research with China. Beijing quietly recalled its remaining technicians from Moscow. The Project Thunderstep, which promised a new balance of terror, was dead before it ever began. And in Kyiv, inside a small operations room lit by blue monitors, commanders watched the satellite footage in silence, the proof that a smaller nation, armed with intelligence and precision, had outmaneuvered 2 global superpowers. When the flames finally faded, what remained was not just wreckage, but revelation. The strike on Chkalovsky had redrawn the boundaries of modern warfare, proving that information, not size, now determined power. And as dawn broke over Eastern Europe, one message echoed louder than any explosion. Ukraine had not only survived, it had rewritten the rules of war. If you found this analysis insightful and want to support more in-depth breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And hit the bell icon so you never miss the next unfolding conflict.